Pretty much from a youth, we were homeless. My family, we never were really rich. On September 11, 2001, my dad lost his job. He worked near the World Trade Center, and after that, he lost his job. We lost our home. And at that point, I told myself, if I ever got money, I'm going to learn everything I can to make sure that this never happens again. And so I learned everything I could, learned about real estate specifically, how it worked, how debt works. After that, I always told myself I'd always give back to people who were in that position. So this was my cause to give back.
Hey there, and welcome to another episode of the Jack Bosch Show, where we talk about all things real estate, finance, and entrepreneurship. And today we're going to talk about how to qualify for housing even if you don't make a lot of money. Now, that's obviously a very hot subject, with house prices through the roof and not coming down, with interest rates to the roof and not coming down, and it being harder and harder to qualify for houses, and rental, like cost of housing being way higher than cost of renting. So I brought today a guest who is an expert in all these kind of things and how to qualify even if you don't make a lot of money. And this is Ray Glymph. Ray, how are you doing today?
Jack, thanks for having me. I'm doing well.
Wonderful. So you're in beautiful West Virginia out there. So I'm in Phoenix, so we couldn't meet in person, obviously, because of like a couple thousand miles in between. But let's get right going. So what do you do? What's the secret here? What are you doing? You're helping people or you're telling people, you're teaching people, or you're just helping them qualify for housing if they don't make a lot of money? What's that all about?
Yeah, so we talk about other investment strategies. My story, I didn't come from much. I was never a super high income earner. And, I always thought that these houses were out of reach, $200, $300, $400,000, putting down. I didn't even know you had to only put down 20%, but even coming up with 20% was originally a lot of money. And for most people, unfathomable. I know you're in the Phoenix area. What's the average house price there? About 400 to 500?
Yeah, like I don't know if I'm in the land space, but I have a few for houses, but I think it's between 450 and 500, somewhere around 458 or so is the last
around 400 is about what we see through the U.S. So coming up with other strategies and other ways to invest to make it make sense for first-time home buyers, which right now I think is actually a really good time if you're poised and in a position to purchase your first home.
Okay, why is today a good time?
Higher interest rates. So there's a lot less competition in the market.
That's
one
true.
of the tactics that we use is what we call subject to. So taking over someone's existing mortgage. That is a great tactic where you can go in, strategize, take over a low mortgage. For investors, particularly, those types of deals might not work. But for someone to actually live in them, it could work. As an investor, you want to make sure your numbers are tight. You can do that as an investor as well. I've done it several times as an investor, but this is one of the strategies that I usually employ.
Okay. So in other words, you don't use like government programs or things like that might exist to help starting investors. You're going more the creative route.
Yeah, I would suggest, especially first-time home buying, possibly doing a creative route in a time like this. You could, of course, take advantage of the government programs, that 3.5% down FHA. So for 400,000 or let's say 500,000, you may only need about 15 to 20,000 down. And for some people, that might just be a good tax return, and put you in shape to get it. So I think the American dream is still there. And I still think now is a great time to buy. I just saw a statistic. By the age of, I believe, 29, the average renter spends over 200,000 in rent from 20 to 29. So if you think about what that could be like in a down payment situation and how much equity you could then have in your home, the upside of it.
In other words, move in with your buddies, sleep on their couch for 9 years, and you got the money. Just kidding.
Yeah.
Now that's the hard way to do it, right?
In this country, I see when you veer out to other countries, a lot of people stay with their families for a lot longer. In America, as soon as we're 18, we're off to the races. Where in other countries, usually it's generational. People stay with their families, and that's one of the ways they maintain their wealth. So it might mean being uncomfortable for a couple more years to maybe save that down payment. But
that's culturally speaking, that's how my wife's from Latin America, and it's the most normal thing in the world that you stay living with your parents until you get married. And so if you get married in your late 20s, that's how you stay at home. Whether you're a guy or girl, doesn't matter. Like lots of her classmates, they were like 25, 27, 28, and then they moved out. Well, what that does is it allows you those first 6, 7, 8 income earning years to really put everything off to the side, and then basically go into marriage and boom, have the money to either start a business or buy a house. But that's not necessarily what we're going to talk about today. Those are obviously all great strategies, but you are so what do you do? Are you an investor? Are you a teacher? Tell us a little bit about what typically, how do you get somebody to own their own house? And is the goal is to make them an investor, or is the goal to just get them their first house?
So my goal, I think everyone should be an investor. I think that should always be your optimal goal, is to be an investor. I'll teach people, and I do teach people, but the goal is always, hey, get your first home. There's no advantage to renting. I'm a strong believer in that, unless you really love the area you're in, but I don't think there's much of an advantage into renting. Home ownership, like I mentioned, is going to be one of the biggest keys to get you to the next level. And whether that be creative finance or FHA, using that as a way to get to the next level is going to be quintessential, to escape what is the rat race. Paying rents aren't going down, right? And we see it even more in the economy. Higher insurance rates, higher what else do we have? Higher maintenance costs. Landlords are just going to pass that on. Higher taxes. I just read a study where insurance and taxes are actually more than average mortgage right now. And so you being a tenant, if you're a tenant and you're still renting, you're going to be victim to that. No matter what, landlord is going to pass that cost on and make a profit. So I always felt it was better for home ownership.
Yeah. So you help people qualify for housing if you don't make a lot of money. Now, how do you do that? Do you what specifically do you do? Do you teach them how to do this? Are you providing like consulting work, or how exactly do you do this?
Yeah, so we have a whole program where we coach people and show them how the available programs that are available, and we coach them through it to help them get the lending to qualify, and also we teach them about creative finance as well. So there, again, multiple ways. Some people may not have best credit. I always recommend you have to have your credit straight no matter what. Good credit is a sign of someone who can pay. But you want to make sure that you have great credit, whether you do creative finance or FHA. But we do teach people exactly how to do it in our program.
Okay, very cool. So, by the way, as a reminder, everyone, I'm with Ray Glymph from West Virginia, who is teaching people how to qualify for houses if you don't make a lot of money. Now, we touched on a couple of government services, things like that. So, walk me through like a day-to-day of you and your business. Somebody comes to you and says like, "Hey, I wanna be investor. I want to have my own first house." So, who do you typically work with, and what is their typical life situation?
Typically, it's a person that either wants to own a home or wants to be an investor. And pretty much, I always say retirement is nothing but it's an equation, right? Retirement is a math number. How much are you spending? What's going in and what's coming out? So we have to figure out what we call a freedom number. And once we figure that out, then it becomes what steps do you need to take to get there? So if you're paying, 2,000 in rent, is it cheaper to buy where you live specifically? Some areas are cheaper to rent than it is to buy. From there, figuring out what do we need to get you to get to that first home purchase. Now, there's a ton of programs, like we mentioned, FHA. There's a 203K conventional loan where you can, or they can pay for some of the rehab. There's another loan program which would help you with your down payment for your actual purchase of your house. There's HUD programs that also help you with the actual purchase of your home as well. So there are a lot of programs out there that I think a lot of people aren't privy to that could be taken advantage and help them become homeowners.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a friend, one of our coaches helped his brother-in-law to get into a house that they would have never been able to go in, and they think something like it took them just a few $1,000s to get started in their home because they got some seller credits, they got some government it's like down payment support and things like that, and altogether now they're a proud homeowner that most people don't know what exists. So what is one of your favorite programs out there?
I'd say the FHA first time homebuyer program, and then there's also some grants out there as well that people can take advantage of, and that could go for. And this is very important. It is very important to work with a good lender and a good realtor if you are working with a realtor. Work with a great lender, great realtor. There are credits out there. We just helped someone close on a home, and they were able to get $5,000 in closing credits, is what the lender was offering. So that's $5,000 to take to the table pretty much and help you
Mhm.
negotiate with. A good realtor can also help you negotiate that closing costs and buying things down like that, which could save you money in your pocket from the closing table.
Yeah. Absolutely. So FHA, that's what I used when I started in this country. I'm an immigrant. I came with nothing, built up my credit, and then once I married to my wife Michelle, we went to the bank, and they said could qualify for like one of these 97% loans with 3% down, and of course mortgage insurance, and so we picked a little bit of a lower house than we could afford because we had the mortgage insurance and other things on top of it. We didn't want to over leverage. But yeah, I remember it was a $151,000 home, and I mean, what is 7% of that? It's something like 90, like $10,000 or so. $10,000 down was possible, and I had just saved that in my job over the last whatever a couple of years. So for those 10 grand, I was able to get in my first home, which we still own, but now it's a rental. So we
Yeah.
basically, as we moved up, we didn't sell our house, but we kept it. And today it's worth, I just looked it up last weekend. It's Zillow says it's worth whatever that's worth, but Zillow says it's, now I looked at some comparables. Obviously I'm the business, so I didn't just say this estimate, but on Zillow, similar houses, because it's a cookie cutter neighborhood, there's identical houses down the road that sold for like 450. So, I mean,
Wow.
that's 24 years ago, but still, I mean, I paid 151, and the like $300,000 in appreciation was generated by tenants that move in it, that live in it, because I only lived in it for about 6 years before I moved out.
Yeah, and we
Uh,
can't forget the depreciation. That's another
yeah,
one, the rental income that you've gotten as well. Real estate's a very powerful tool. That's
yeah,
why we preach for people that have home ownership.
that's right. So I probably made a good $500,000 on that
Hmm.
property in
Yeah,
25 years.
not
That's good
bad.
money. That's good money. That's 20 grand a year. That's a 200% return on my $10,000 investment. Let's put it that way.
Hmm.
So you help them through that. You help them educate them. You help them find those places, correct?
Yeah, so
Find
we
places.
help through the whole process. And it like I said, it doesn't just have to be. There are programs for high income earners. There are programs for low income earners. Especially working with HUD, even on low income assistance, we've been able to help people who are getting government assistance to qualify for homes. Where a
Mhm.
portion of their rent that they're paying now goes to pretty much what's like a savings account and goes towards their first down payment for a home.
Oh, wow.
So there are a
What are
lot
these
of
programs
programs out
called?
there. That is the HUD First Time Homebuyers Program.
Okay.
So that is
Very cool.
federally backed as well.
Yeah, very cool. So now you came from a pretty, like, you had some turbulence in your life, right?
Mhm.
So how did you come across all of this in the first place? Tell me your story to start.
Yeah, so pretty much from a youth, we were homeless. My family, we never were really rich or wealthy, but they did okay. And after 2001, September 11th, 2001, my dad lost his job. He worked near the World Trade Center. And after that, he lost his job. We lost our home. And at that point, I told myself, if I ever got money, I'm going to learn everything I can to make sure that this never happens again. And so I learned everything I could, learned about real estate specifically, how it works, how debt works, how money flows. And that helped me understand better to be poised in a position. And then after that, I always told myself I'd always give back to people who were in that position. So this was my cause to give back.
That's beautiful. So that goes to a point that I just talked to with one of my mentors about. That was that if you take the time horizon long enough, in most cases, something that if you take the time horizon long enough, most cases something that looks like a short-term catastrophe ultimately actually turns into something with a huge benefit to yourself or the world or the family. Now, your family lost their job. You were homeless and so on, and but ultimately because of that, you are potentially in a way better situation that you've ever been because you learned from it.
Yeah, I
Is
think
that fair to say?
yeah, I think it becomes resiliency because some people may go through this and never recover. There are a lot of
Yeah.
people who go through it mentally and can never recover from it, and there are some who come out stronger. So
Yeah.
resiliency, whenever you do, I know a lot of people who bought real estate. You think, pre 2008, they got beat up in 2008 and before, and now they were resilient enough, and they look back like, wow, I can't believe what I have now.
Yeah.
So that resiliency is very important.
Now did your family recover
Yeah,
ultimately?
yeah, yeah. So they're not well off now. I think I'm the one that's doing the best in the family,
Yeah.
um, but they did recover. Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad to hear. Good. So now you said you also teach people creative strategies like subject to. Now, again, I'm in the real estate space for 25 years. I have never done a subject to deal, but I have many friends that are in the space. We probably have lots of shared friends, particularly in the investment community here in Phoenix and other places. Which before we went live, you talked about knowing a bunch of people here, and I belong to some of the largest masterminds in the country that have some of the top subject to and house flippers and everything in there. Once you enter that kind of arena of like subject to and things like that, it's a completely different ballgame. You're shifting from let me work through all the government paperwork and figure out where's the program that I can qualify for,
Mhm.
to let me be an entrepreneur and do massive marketing. Let me learn how to talk to people. Let me learn how to negotiate. Let me know things. How do you combine those two things in your own career and in your teaching and so on?
I think I think it makes sense for some deals, and some it doesn't make sense. Okay. Usually when we find a subject to deal, we're actually helping someone out of the situation that they may be in. So you might have like a tired landlord or somebody who's in distress, maybe a couple months behind on their mortgage. Hey, look, we'll help you get through this. And that's your somewhat of your entry point, where the government is someone who, or government funding, usually just going to be, mom and pop selling the house and getting from under that mortgage. So subject to, we find that there's more value in actually helping versus just, selling and transactional.
So, but when somebody comes to you, are they coming to you and say like, I need a house, and you say, guess what? We just found a subject to house that would be perfect for you.
Yeah.
Or are you saying like, oh, you want to go learn how to do subject to, and you're basically providing a subject to coaching program?
Both. So we could teach you, but it depends on what the person is individual situation is. Some people don't want to talk to other people. Some people don't just have that caring or finesse to talk to other people, where that might be something that might be better done for you. Hey, look, here's what I have, or here are the deals in the area that may work for you, subject to or government funding. Or it could be, hey, look, here's a seller and they're distressed. Would you like to talk to them? They might be willing to offer you the chance to have your first home. So
So in
I
other
think
words,
it really depends on the person.
so if in other words, when somebody comes to you and says, okay, I want a house, and then you have options. You basically can
Mhm.
say, listen, we can, based on your background and your financials and your things, we can put you into this government program, and you get into this program, you get an FHA first thing, you have good credit, you have thing, you just have, it's a first home buyer, 3% downgrade, or you need the down payment assistance, you need the this to this and this and this. We put you into the HUD program, or we put you in that, or
Yeah.
they're like, you got crappy credit. None of the government agency is going to
Yeah.
give you anything because you just went bankrupt on your business or something like that. You got some cash, but you don't have the ability to get any loan. Let me get you a subject to house that you can take over. And then you start making the payments, and you eventually become the owner of that. And once your credit is improved, you get your own loan on it, get the old person out, and move on from there. Is that accurately
Yeah.
stated?
Yeah. So then that's what's important is when we onboard somebody, we do a full assessment to know, where you sit personally.
Yeah. Cool. Now, what does it include, for example?
What is what?
What does the assessment include?
Pretty much we want to know your credit score. We want to know what your goal is. How much of a house do you want? Some people have champagne dreams on a bare budget. So we want to make sure that financially it makes sense. We want everybody to succeed in home ownership. So I wouldn't want you to get a house that you're over leveraged on. And so we want to make sure it makes sense throughout, because when you get into, the seller finance, FHA, they're gonna run everything. But when you get into seller finance deals, you can get over your head quick. So we want to make sure that we do our due diligence and have success stories, which we do have plenty of.
Wonderful. That's really cool. Great. So now you also operate as a life coach. Now, how's that? Is that in a line and that comes along with it because the people coming to you they need life coaching,
Yeah,
or is that a different kind of
it
situation?
pretty much it aligns with people because I was a strong believer that having a home is part of your mental health. Having consistent housing is mental health, and some people come to me, they're not sure of what they want to do. Some people have businesses, operate businesses, so it all aligns with what my personal goals were.
Yeah, that's really cool. So I like that. Now, do you operate nationwide?
Yes, all through the United States.
Okay. From things. So most of it is online. People come to you online, and
Yeah.
how can somebody find you if they want to if they're like in a situation is like great program, great system, great offer, like or great opportunity. How do I get into that?
I'm just a regular person. You can reach out to me on Instagram, Facebook. People find me and go to my website or just even LinkedIn. Ray Ray Glymph Glymph.
Okay. Ray Glymph, like again, GLYMPH. Don't forget the H there in the back. It's a silent one. Very cool. So, what else? What else? What makes you most excited about what you do here?
Um, helping people become homeowners and investors is a different type of feeling. Seeing somebody go into a house that is their home, renters who's rented their whole lives, make something that is theirs that they can eventually build equity. Like you mentioned, you built that equity into your house. Let me ask you a question. Did you have a realtor that helped you do that? That built to
When I
purchase your first
bought the
house?
house, I knew nothing about nothing. So I
Yeah.
wasn't in real estate yet. I hadn't flipped any land yet. I didn't have 800 apartment units yet. I didn't have anything yet. I just basically had come to the United States from Germany 4 years prior. Gotten a social security number legally in the country. You want to say that these days? Make sure I had gotten a job. I had basically gotten a prepaid credit card to start building up my credit. I've got a house in one of these a car in one of these junkyard car dealerships at a 13% interest rate,
Mhm.
just because they report to credit bureau. So to build up my credit, and as soon as my credit was like in the whatever upper 600s or so, I went to the bank and I was like, okay, I want a house. And well, I went to a realtor first, and I literally just walked down the mall and they had these realtor booths, and I talked to the realtors like, yeah, I can help you. And he drove us around and he found us a house. And I think we made an offer. We got the offer accepted and never heard from that realtor ever in my life again. That was
But
it.
you know what? You remember that realtor though. You remember how you met them. You remember how it made you feel when you got
Yeah.
that house. And that feeling is something that I think everyone should experience in their life.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's we experience that with our land coaching students when they're doing their first $30,000 deal, when they're breaking the six figures, when they're quitting their job. Uh, it's amazing for them and it's amazing for us.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So high
Yeah.
value.
Very good. Now, how big do you run this alone or do you have a team?
I have a team. Yep.
Okay. So now, how do you make money in this? Like, is it like, do people pay you a fee to do this, or do you get paid by basically from these government programs? Or obviously, when you do a house that you get like subject to, you probably add a little fee on there when you
Yeah.
resell it. That makes sense. But in a normal kind of transaction, like a HUD transaction, are you a realtor or are you are you getting paid as a realtor and help people through this? Or how do you get paid in this transaction?
I get paid on the realtor side, so I can send a referral to someone wherever they may be.
I see. So you have a realtor's license and you basically, now that's opens an entire different kind of level of conversation here. I love that. Because I have a realtor's license and I haven't used it. I use it to represent myself on this house that I'm coming here from. That's in my home office. I use this when I represent myself on larger commercial transactions. But other than that, I've never helped anyone. I mean, I've never acted as a realtor representing somebody else, even though I have my realtor license for like 15 years or so, or more, and renewing it diligently. So, but in your case, that makes it even better. It makes it pretty much almost cost neutral for the person that comes to you, because in essence, instead of you being a realtor saying, well, yeah, what houses do you want to see? and you're showing them a few houses, like, oh, sorry, you don't qualify. Oh, well, I wasted my time. You're going there, analyzing their financials and helping them get into the house. That's brilliant, because that really ensures you get paid.
Yeah. Yeah. So my job is pretty much to help you find a home.
Help you find a home and help you qualify for the loan, which most realtors don't do. Most realtors, they have you do a pre-qual, and based on the pre-qual, they show you the kind of house you're looking for.
Yeah.
Like, you're going this completely different, and I love that angle. That's so much more service oriented.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
But
yeah,
this too comes from being an investor too. So knowing as an investor what people need, it plays a very good part.
Yeah. Because literally, I mean, somebody can come to you and on a pre-qual there, it looks like they're qualifying for zero.
Yeah.
But then you're like, wait a second, I can get you still into a $250,000 home if you go down this route or that route or that route, and then you have a team to help them actually move through there. Like, yeah, man, there's houses out there what people are looking for is, I mean, a lot of people looking to be sellers agents, but you're a really brilliant buyer's agent there.
Thank you.
I love that. Wonderful. So great, Ray Glymph. Guys, go check him out on social media. Is there a website or anywhere that people can get a hold of you?
Yeah, it's a website. There's a link on all my social medias. It's just my name.com. So
all right,
find me everywhere.
Awesome. Good. So with that said, I usually like to give the last word of our podcast to our guest. So if you have what kind of like last words do you have to share with anyone listening here, whether they can afford 50,000 houses or can't afford a house? Any kind of like general kind of wisdom?
The world is full of mediocrity. There's no reason not to be great right now.
Awesome. Love that. Wiser words have rarely been spoken. People always say there's competition, so much competition. Yeah, that's only in the middle. In the middle and the bottom, there's competition. There's very little competition if you're the best. And obviously, you seem to be the best, really, really good at what you do. I love that. Congratulations. That's combining something that truly helps people with something that also makes you money. So doing well by doing good. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So
thank you.
With that said, thank you very much. That concludes another episode of today's show. With that said, always, as usual, give us that 5-star review. Go stop right now. Go find the review place on the different platforms that you are. Give us that review and then share it with your friends. With that said, see you. That's a wrap. See you in the next episode.